All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Nisswa Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Roll call, please.
Danny Mendel.
Sean Weldon.
Josh Young.
Gary Harris.
Dave Reese.
Maggie Wentler.
Steve Timblin.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next, to approve the meeting minutes for May 6th, 2025. Are there any corrections or deletions to those minutes?
No.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Next item is an open forum. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to speak towards something not on the agenda this evening? Moving on to public hearings, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. First item is a conditional use permit 016-25 to amend existing CUP conditions and findings of fact for the establishment in the central business zoning district. Subject property is located at 5386 Merrill Avenue, PID 28110650. Owner applicant Nancy Freeman and Kim Walters of Wine Down. Are they here this evening? You can come forward to the desk there and then state your name, and there should be a little green dot that it's on, then you're good.
I'm Kim Walters.
Hi, Kim.
Thank you.
Steve, and your staff report.
Thank you, Chairman Young. So we have an applicant here to amend the conditional use permit approved for this establishment. The previous CUP had language as it relates to a wine and beer license. The applicant is seeking to expand that licensure and their business to also include whiskey flights and cocktails and additional food items. The CUP would be a requirement for a restaurant within the central business zoning district. The proposed business is already served by city sewer. The public works comment does not expect any expansion to that use, and there is a water meter installed to monitor that usage. There's no new construction proposed with this application and no additional impervious surface proposed by the applicant. The property is surrounded by central business zone property, so no screening would be required. Any new signage should be in compliance with table 20-509.2, the central business district sign standards. And there is a new seating plan included in this packet for review that will be proposed to exceed the minimum required 50 guest seating. Previous CUP did have findings of facts referring to service of wine, beer, and food, and this application does expand that usage. And it also requires a higher level of state licensure. The state licensure and city council approval is progressing concurrently to the zoning application process. So the applicant is here to get the zoning approval, and then we'll commence to those items. And that's what I have in my analysis.
Okay. If you would like to make public comment towards this project, please step toward the podium and state your name and address. Seeing we have none, I'll close public comments. You want to give us a brief overview of your proposal?
Yes, I am wanting to expand with a full liquor license on a very limited basis. I do this in my Walker location also, where I have included whiskey flights. And so I do a flight of 3 different whiskeys, and I do 3 different craft cocktails. And that is basically the addition that I'm asking for. We're not doing any full liquor menu. It's not going to be an extensive addition. It's just those small little additions.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
None.
Like your wine operation there, the menus, it could be the same thing where your whiskeys or bourbons would change from month to month, and
Yep.
it's craft.
And the
Craft
cocktails,
brews,
yep,
right?
every month, the new wines, new whiskeys, new craft cocktails.
Okay. Hours of operation remain the same?
Yes.
If there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit 016-25 to amend existing CUP conditions and findings of facts for establishment in the central business district for the wind down on 5386 Merrill Avenue.
I'll second it.
What's that?
And the conditions.
And the conditions, any conditions, yes.
Okay. Second by Danny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
When is that gonna start, by the way?
City approval for the full liquor license, and that is
Right.
hopefully going down to the state, and it will start July 1st.
Okay,
Cool. Great.
thank you.
Next item is variance application 017-25 to obtain a variance for reduced side yard setback for an accessory structure in the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. Subject property is located at 4196 Upper Royal Lake Road, PID 281-00707. Owner applicant Troy Kachavar. Close enough. If we have a person here representing, okay, if you want to come to the desk and state your name.
Hi there, my name is Bobby Kochever.
Okay.
You had it
Coach
close.
Heber, I got it. All right, Steven, your staff report.
Thank you, Chairman. So we have in front of us a variance request to construct a 2,500 square foot accessory structure with a reduced side yard setback of, and a correction in my staff report, the survey reflects a 10-foot side yard setback instead of a 13-foot, where 30 feet is required. And in your packet, we have received some late comments to this proposal. And I had spoken with the city attorney this afternoon, who has rendered a suggestion and advice that this matter get tabled to allow for additional time to review this subject. That in mind, should I continue with my analysis of this topic?
I would think that would probably be best to heed his advice, and then rather than going through the whole thing and having to come back at the next meeting to go through the whole thing again until we have some more information. So that's my opinion.
I concur.
Okay, does the applicant have any questions?
Is that the only option that there is? There was something that happened at 4:30 today that did not allow us to seek any counsel related to this. There was an unfortunate incident. Our neighbors are here to delay this further because the construction materials are set to arrive in a couple weeks. We'll actually, and maybe this is not your issue, but it will negatively impact us financially. And we had cleared the trees back in February. We had been seeking legal counsel this whole time, and we're prepared to move forward. We've been working with the city, and so what happened just a couple hours ago kind of caught us off guard, and
Us too.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know about. Okay,
This lawsuit was filed in April though, correct?
In April of 24.
24, so it's been going on quite a while.
We've been attempting to settle it ever since it came because we want to make sure that our neighbors have a chance to sell their home. That was her ultimate goal, or as it was explained to us. So we signed the temporary easement to allow her to proceed in that regard. And here we are a year and a half and umpteen legal fees later. And we moved here in 2019 and chose this property because we knew that my husband, he has a car business and a golf cart shop, that this would be ultimately where we could build our shed. And we had to save up 5-6 years in order to be able to afford it. And so my husband is not here because, and I'm very sorry for what happened, but this is his dream and he's seeing it slipping away because we're not going to be able to continue with this if we can't find a way to make it. And this is too much. Your last one was so easy that I think that's why you've got us here now as number 2.
So if you're not familiar with the process, so when we table something or we vote to table, it's not a yes or a no. We're just kind of extending it because we need more information. And that's what our city attorney said. He needs more information because he just wasn't able to review all the legal documentation. And as a group, it wouldn't be right for us to make a decision knowing that there's other things that are going on where we might have to come back later. So,
Yeah, and this meeting happens once per month, right?
right,
Mhm.
yes.
And we had initially asked, it's, the tariffs are entering into this as well in terms of why the builder is saying that if we delay this further, our costs are going to go up 17%. So that is why we were really hoping that we could proceed. And if we can't get the variance, I guess that doesn't preclude us from continuing to build, because we're here for the variance. We're not here to be able to build on our property.
Right.
So
Why can't you move that, the proposed building to another location on the lot? I don't understand that totally.
the way that our lot is constructed, we would have wanted to do that. I don't know if you have the drawing of our lot in front of you. We have
I'm
a
looking at the drawing
completely
here.
curved driveway, and in order for, right now to get our pontoon in, it's, with a truck backing it up, you want to be able to come into the straightaway and back right up into the facility, into the structure. And we've got, because of our drain field and our septic, and there's no other location on our property, we actually would prefer to build it somewhere else because it would be cheaper. Because all of our utilities and gas and water are on the total opposite. So this is not a financial, we're not making this decision for financial reasons, it's for practical reasons. It's the only place that we can build a structure on our property. And we were looking for this, the 10-foot setback as opposed to 30 feet because if we shift it over, due to the topography of our land, it would then create more water runoff towards the house because the house is so much lower than the structure where the shed will be. So the closer it gets to the house, the bigger that drop off becomes. And so, and then it also shifts it over. And so you wouldn't be able to back up. You would have to actually curve around a bend to even drive something into the shed. So it's for practical purposes. We'd also have to take out another tree line. I think trees are important. That may not be a practical reason to not move it over any further, but that was the reason. So the shed's gonna go up, the shed could go up regardless. It just won't be as practical for us it won't be as usable, or it'll just be more difficult to back things in and out of it. It's just impractical. So that's why we came forward to request the variance.
Okay.
So thank you for allowing me to provide additional information. And if the neighbors would like to speak, I haven't had a chance to speak with them because everything happens through attorneys. And we've been very good neighbors for the 6 years for 5 of those 6 years that we've been near each other. And this is really an unfortunate situation.
You know, not to speak of the adverse possession suit that's going on, you know, on the land. I'm a little concerned about the size of that proposed building being 10 feet instead of 30 from that line, because there's a house next door to the west there that's, I mean, this thing's gonna be right outside their windows, and I'm really kind of concerned about that because there isn't enough room to screen the property or screen the building off properly. You know, when you're using 10 feet only. from the
Well,
property
actually,
line.
I'm surprised. I wonder if I think when Troy was meeting with you, Steve, it was moved to 13 feet so that we could put up a tree line, is how it was explained to us. So I was surprised to see. I think our original.
Well, 13 or 10 though, I mean, it's still
Oh,
a big
okay.
difference from 30.
Mm.
You know, and if you could move that building over so that it fits within the, you know, within the ordinance setbacks, none of this would be a problem for you, but obviously it would entail probably moving some sewer piping, some septic piping, your driveway reconstructing.
And the water issue for drainage too, because. of
Well,
the
and that
rain.
can be solved too. That's what civil engineers are for, right, Dave?
Just true, yes, that's what it's.
There's a way to take care of the drainage. It's just gonna take a little time and a little work, but I'm just concerned about having that building so close to that property line. You know, that's another secondary issue. But could be primary once it's built. But, you know, there's another thing to get to, one of the stipulations and one of the conditions on variances is that financial considerations have played no part in this. You know, and you brought that up a couple times about the cost and trying to get this done quickly, and that for that reason alone, you may get a denial on a variance at this point. But I think with the lawsuit going on and everything else, your choices are to table this to a future meeting, future date. Or if you want us to go through with it and we can continue discussing it and vote on it, you stand a pretty good chance of getting a denial. You know, and then you're gonna have to start all over again, but you may end up starting over anyway, so I don't know. I realize that this isn't very encouraging for you, but especially with the lawsuit, there's a lot of problems here, so.
Before we go forward more with the discussion, I would like to offer the public a chance to, I mean, this is a public hearing, so I want to give the public a chance to make a public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment regarding the project? If you want to, we'd like you to come to the podium and then state your name and address.
My name is Linda Benson, and I'm Marilyn Bergen's sister. And I'm not sure what Bobby was talking about, but I've never encountered such an angry encounter with anyone at 4:30 today that lasted about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm still kind of shaking. No one has ever yelled or sworn at me as much as Troy did. And I don't know if that enters in, but here's someone that wants to build a building that's right up to my sister's house, right up to her window. And I have to say that there has not been a good neighbor feeling from what I've seen. And I've stayed very close to my sister. I maybe shouldn't have mentioned that, but I was shocked by it. I have to say that. Troy just shocked me. And there was another member that heard a little bit of it as he came out.
I would like to apologize for that.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
And it has been a very good relationship with John and Marilyn. We've stored our car in their garage.
I think it was a good relationship with Marilyn's former husband, John, but it hasn't been a good relationship with Marilyn.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
What does the neighbor?
Pardon?
How does the neighbor feel about the building being built in its present, in the proposed location? Do you have an opinion on it? What happened at 4:30? We're not privy to that, so you know
Okay.
that's something.
So ask me again. I'm not sure what you were.
Well, their proposed shed that they're building that they're going to put up here. Do you have a problem with the location that they're showing, that they're proposing it to be?
It's so close to her window. And first what happened was there was a beautiful row of trees there that looked, when she looked out her main windows, she could see the trees. And now there's a big, it looks sort of like a parking lot there. And it's really close to her house. And she had a little bench and a little rock garden there. And
well, that's still there. That's on our property, but it's still there. That's the issue, is that,
Well, that's part of the issue of the lawsuit, so
Correct.
we can't get into that.
right. Okay.
Okay.
all right, I'm sorry I told you about what didn't,
Oh, that's fine, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I
Okay,
guess I would request that it be tabled then, because, again, a lot of this information just happened in the last couple hours. We did not expect there to be this type of response.
okay. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion then.
The table,
To table.
so move.
You gotta make a motion. Oh. Who's making the motion?
We're good.
You making the motion?
Well, you can, go ahead.
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, I'll move that we table the variance application, 018-25, until, next month. Okay,
Yep.
and then bring it up again. By that time, we'll have more information.
Do I have a second?
Is it 017-25 instead of 018-25?
No, it's
017.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to make sure.
All
we
right,
grab the
wrong
right
one.
Oh, I see.
017-25.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next item is variance application 018-25 to obtain a variance for reduced side yard setbacks for the expansion of an existing accessory structure and oversized living quarters in the Shoreline Residential Zoning District. The subject property is located at 21,753 Birchmont Lane, PID 283-60578. Owner applicant Martin and Cassandra Holstrom. Do we have one of those individuals here? Yep, if you would like to come to the desk here. And state your name and address.
Hi, Marty Holmstrom, 21753 Birchmont Lane, Nisswa.
Stephen, your staff report.
Thank you, Chairman. So we have in front of us a request for two variances to our dimensional standards in our ordinance. One, the first of which would be a variance for 732.25 square feet of livable area, where 700 square feet is the maximum in a guest quarters of an accessory structure. The second variance application included in this proposal is for the side yard setback of 21.5 feet and 16.8 feet, where 30 feet is required for the proposed accessory structure size of 1,440 square feet. This structure in its current state was permitted with no livable area in 2022 and consisted of storage area in the loft above. The applicant had constructed bunks and livable area upstairs and is requesting an after-the-fact conversion of this space to guest quarters. This request for variance has followed for the consideration of a kitchenette and bathroom space on the first level involved in the expansion area, resulting in the net overage of 32.25 square feet in this request. The accessory structure size maximum for a 30-foot setback, or minimum, I should say, for a 30-foot setback is 1,201 square feet. Anything exceeding that up to 2,500 has that requirement of 30 feet. The applicant is seeking for the addition to construct a 10 by 36-foot accessory / livable area toward the interior of the property, maintaining the current proximities of the structure to the property lines, where, again, structures exceeding 1,200 square feet need that 30-foot setback. There is not a commercial use proposed within the structure, and the first floor elevation is proposed to be 1,213.3 above the RFPE. That's my analysis.
Will you give us a brief overview of what you're proposing?
Sure, thanks. And thanks, Steve, for a few meetings with me to help guide me through the process, and also Gary and Josh for stopping out today, and anyone else that was able to make it out. So thank you for considering our request for these two variances. Just to briefly recap, first in the rear and side setbacks to the rear building footprints 8 feet shy of the 30-foot required. The numbers might be a little off of yours, but and then the east side, it's currently at 17, so we're at about 13 feet. And then the livable area is just 32.25 square feet above what's required in the ordinance. To the rear of the property is a multi-acre lowland of field and trees owned by Sebago Resort, who is our neighbor. And my parents were one time co-owner of Sebago, and they are longtime friends and really excited about our addition. To the east of the property, beyond a tree line, is an open field also owned by Sebago. What are the practical difficulties? In 2022, to create extra storage, we needed to build a garage at the far north end of our property to avoid the septic field of the home, which stretches out and almost goes to the edge of where the garage is. So last year, to accommodate family guests, we decided to add a living area above, and that currently has no bathroom or water. So after a few occasions of emptying porta potties, my wife and I decided to add a bathroom and a kitchenette for guests in that shed row addition. And otherwise, our family member guests from nieces and nephews and families that want to come summer or winter would have to walk about 180 feet to use the main house facilities. Will the deviation from the ordinance still be in harmony with the intent of the ordinance and comprehensive plan? Yes, the addition will use the same aesthetics of natural color, wood grain siding, and cedar trim. And it will be an addition to the interior of our property and really, of course, not any closer to the adjacent lots. And with me tonight is Craig Peterson, general contractor for both the construction of the garage and also for the addition. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time and consideration.
If anyone would like to make public comment for this application, please step towards the podium and state your name and address. Being none, I'll close public comments. Commissioner member comments. Do we have any questions?
Don't have any.
I don't have any. I was out and visited the site today, and it seems like both of the requests are very reasonable to me. He's in a very secluded location, the end of a long driveway. It's the last unit on the driveway.
I think it's the longest driveway in Round Lake.
And
I know, because I got to
And-
blow snow and shovel on it.
the addition.
And Craig's at the end of it.
The addition that he's looking at putting onto the garage is all onto the house side of the lot. It doesn't affect the properties at all. So I think they're both reasonable requests, both the size of the living area variance and the setbacks. The setbacks of the existing garage before the addition fit the 1,200 square foot ordinance setbacks.
Right.
By going over the 1,200 square feet, that would have pushed them back up, further from those setbacks. So I personally would see no reason in not granting that. So
Dave, I read through your email. Do you have anything to add?
No, it's just septic.
storage.
Yep, we have a holding tank design, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? Good.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I live in this neighborhood. I see it. I saw it was being built, and if you're doing an addition, it's not really, I mean, it's already there. It's going away from the property line, so I don't see a big issue with what you're proposing personally. But how we do this is it's a variance application and there's two questions. So we have to go through these list of questions and then answer it as we go through it. So we're going to do it twice because we have two variance requests here. So the first one, I think I have it here. Yes.
Can we do this once? If
It depends on
If-
whether you're approving. both.
if the motion is going to be to approve both, we could do.
Yes to both.
Concurrently as we're going
We could do
for
the
variance
5-5.
1 and 2. Okay.
It's a problem if if one of them's gonna be denied, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we'll do variance request 1 and 2. Is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and comprehensive plan? Yes or no?
Yes, the neighboring properties will not be impacted, in a negative aspect by this at all, so. And it will add to the maximum use of the property, and I think also for safety and of his guests in the future.
We agree?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Variance request 1 and 2. Question 2. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city Nisswa Code of Ordinances?
Again, I think it's the same statement as number 1.
Would agree?
Yeah.
3 for variance request 1 and 2 is a need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner.
It is. The existing building does conform to the present ordinance setbacks, so the minimal impact or the addition of this garage should not affect those setbacks at all, which would, to grant that, using the old setbacks for the new building, so.
I would agree.
Agree.
For 1 and 2, will the issue of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, it's just an addition to what's already there. It looks very nice. Number 5, does the need for the variance involve more than economic considerations?
it does. It does not,
Okay,
in this case,
okay.
involve economic considerations. Trick question here. We got to change it, change the language.
Does not, because it's in addition to an already existing structure.
Does not.
We all agree?
Yes.
Okay. And there are no other pertinent findings, so I will entertain a motion.
I will, I don't know, let me get the, make a motion to approve. Where are we at? Yeah, variance application 018-25. To obtain a variance for reduced side yard setbacks for the expansion of existing accessory structure and oversized living quarters in the Shoreland Residential Zoning District, subject property located at 21753 Birchmont Lane. PID 283-60578.
In addition to the conditions.
In addition with staff conditions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Good luck on the project.
Thank you. Thank
luck.
you all for serving.
Good luck.
I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item of new business, extension request for variance, extension request for variance 004-24.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
So I received an email request for a Roger Bach Oak for his subject property at 26252 Edna Lake Road. Survey is attached in the packet for the approved variance. The applicant is seeking an extension of this approval. Our ordinance allows for the planning commission to extend it once without resuming to new public hearing. The applicant is seeking the extension to facilitate the installation of the septic system that was permitted. So pretty much it for that.
Yeah. So this will be a motion that we have to make to do an extension.
Yep.
I'll move to approve the extension request for various extension VAR -004-24 BOUC parentheses.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Sketch plan review, preliminary review of interim use permit application pending for temporary commercial structure in the Central Business Zoning District, applicant Up North Real Estate Holdings LLC.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
So this is in preparation again for an interim use permit application. The landowner of that property ID is requesting a sketch plan review of their proposal and relief to certain application submission requirements for the placement of a temporary commercial structure. The application submission requirements requested to be waived in this case are a certificate of survey and a stormwater management plan drawn by a licensed engineer for this commercial purpose. I made a site visit with the property owner, kind of talking about the placement of this temporary commercial structure. And my understanding, it is a storage container that would be used temporarily through the summer months for storage of the bikes that are rented out of this facility. The property itself has some relatively low areas that the drainage is already occurring to. The applicant had also provided a sketch of current stormwater runoff depicted along the corridor of City Hall Street, of which some of the subject property runs through. And I guess that's what I have for my analysis, the applicant is also here if you have questions for him. So.
Yeah, do you have, would you like to come and ask us some questions? Is it usually how a sketch plan review is? You can kind of bounce questions off of us before we get into like a formal public hearing.
Tim Wagner, I am the owner of the property that this pertains to.
Okay.
And I guess the questions that I had or the ask was just kind of laid out there. I mean, we're looking for, to have for the conditional use requirements to have the certificate of survey waived and a stormwater management plan drawn up to have that waived. I went out and measured, you know, from the building to the property line or to the curbing of where the city hall parking lot is. And so I guess what I'm getting at is even if the property line is way off, it's not off 32 feet. So for the purpose of what I'm trying to accomplish, I was just looking to have these two requirements waived because it kind of becomes impractical to move forward if I don't have those items waived.
Yeah.
So is your plan to move that on and off the site, container?
I would have it there. It wouldn't be moved. It would only be used during the period that we're open, which is May 1st to October 31st. It wouldn't be there permanently. The idea is to have it there, you know, for a period of time until we're ready to move forward with
Sure.
potentially expanding or, you know, something like that.
Got it.
Sure. Yeah, I guess an IUP does have a terminable event such as transfer of property. We could suggest that the termination of this approval upon that public hearing could be something like when you come back for a construction permit to do an addition or a scrape and rebuild or expansion of your structure. So it is intended in all purposes just to be a temporary feature. So
So what you're looking for is like an opinion, is that?
Yeah.
yeah, he approached and is aiming for the July 1st thing, and I offered this as just a opportunity to get in front of you guys and see what your thoughts were. With the current ordinance, I do have the authority to waive certain requirements, but it's subject to your approval. So if I had waived the certificate of survey or the engineered stormwater plan and he got in front of you, then you guys would be able to shoot that down and say, no, I think we need to table this because we want a survey. And so I just wanted to preempt that and get that in front of you guys for your thoughts on that. So again, we were aiming for July 1st regardless.
But correct me if I'm wrong, if he were to bring in an oversized trailer that has, that you haul with on the back of a truck, obviously you wouldn't have to require a stormwater plan.
Correct. If you're just storing a feature like a trailer, then it's not a structure.
Yeah.
And not being used as such. So
Okay. Dave, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think it's really not good how often pollution it becomes a permanent fixture adding to your impervious coverage. So how does that relate to?
So we have a 90% impervious allowance in central business. The proposal, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, what was the size of that structure? That was like 8 by 20, 40?
The proposed container 8 by 20, so 160 square feet.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the addition of that impervious, in my opinion, would be minimal for this case in this particular property, given the site sketch proposed by the applicant. And the placement of it centrally located could be mitigated through simple stormwater mechanisms.
So what was you said it was probably a temporary in case you can do something in the future. Did you have like a timeline for how long you'd like to use it for?
I guess I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with a few other things in downtown. Um, St. Christopher's Church, the City Hall Street reconstruction and paving. So I'll have a better idea. I don't know what the timeline on those things, but sure, those are gonna play into what ultimately happens.
Okay. Well, thoughts on you guys to give them a glimpse on what you think? I mean, that's,
I wouldn't have a problem having that stuff waived.
yeah, Sean, or I'm sorry, Danny.
Yeah.
No, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
As long as it's, at some point it's removed, you know, we don't
Yeah,
want to be
it's
parking
not-
trailers and things around town just for that aren't being used on a regular basis, you know, so.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for us?
No,
Okay.
So there's a more formal application at next month's meeting or something? then?
Correct, yep. And sketch plan reviews typically do not come with any decision by this body. It's just more of an opportunity to get
Oh,
comment and.
okay.
such.
Fine.
Okay, well, thank you.
Just for a reference, the city should have an updated survey on file for that property. It does exist
Okay,
in City Hall here somewhere.
yeah,
If not, I can.
You own.
perhaps the prior
wasn't it
owner has a
yours at one
copy of it
point?
also for
Yeah.
easy retrieval. Okay,
If not, I can get everyone a copy of it again,
perfect.
but it does exist.
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Next item is sketch plan review for Verizon Wireless Cell Tower initial site plan review.
Thank you. So, in the time that I've been here, we've kind of been conversing with Verizon Wireless regarding a cell tower, and the lack of cell coverage within the downtown region. The consulting firm and the representative Woody Krog has provided us with this sketch plan showing the proposed location of a cell tower on the city fire hall property. The lease area is depicted on their site plan prior to engagement of a certificate of survey and facilitating that cost. They wanted a preliminary review of the site plan to not do the survey twice, essentially. Depicted as the lessee 15-foot wide easement area and utilities easement to access into the property to service the tower when needed, and the general location of that feature. It is proposed to be adjacent to the fire hall, proximal with the fence at 3 feet and utilizing a monopole construction with a height of 190 feet. So this application will require both a conditional use permit and a variance due to several factors: the height of the tower, proximity to relevant features such as property lines, structures, residentially zoned properties, all of that to be reviewed at the public hearing when scheduled. In this case, again, just kind of reviewing the site plan to see if there's any conversation that you guys want me to forward over to city council in their review at this month's meeting.
Joe, has there been any more discussion since we last heard about this? Is like going back a few months, maybe even more than that.
Quite a few.
The discussion has been, is this the best location for it? Based both upon the service and the visual appearance of it, you know, or should it be looked at on some of the new property down there by Holiday? That the city has. I think the cell phone company got back to us and said for what they're trying to do, that this is still the optimal location for what they need to do to help boost the service around town and east of town a little bit. I think they were trying to focus on, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they did put together some aerial GIS mapping with
They did have some proprietary information that they did not want to be
coverage
published.
locations.
Correct, with different cell tower heights,
Yeah,
up to
how far
250 feet and
the 250 feet just seems
So those,
excessive compared to the amount of
Has there
increase.
been any discussion with them about the aesthetics of the particular towers? You know, they make all kinds of,
Yeah.
they're building towers around now that look like trees.
yeah, I see. They're doing
Um,
I think
just,
Baxter
I mean,
does have
just
an
really,
example
you know,
of
they'll look like buildings, they'll blend in with their, if they're in urban situations, but.
Mhm.
Be fun to have a sequoia in Nisswa.
Yeah, giant
What
square.
else gets 190 feet tall?
You know, just,
The other thing with the tower that maybe, I don't know if you talked to Sean about this, but then, the fire department, is my understanding, would still use this tower too for the repeater and stuff. Is that still correct
I
information?
think that they can co-locate things on there. That'll be a great question for Woody, who unfortunately could not attend tonight's meeting, but he did say that he would be at the council meeting. So the co-location aspect of other antenna and things like that is a potential. As the lessee, I guess the permission would be mutual that we would want to see.
So that's been discussed, right now, there is the tower at the fire department, if you guys are familiar with that, has the repeater on for us and different stuff. And that tower is my understanding would be looking at taking down and.
There's also a
remove-
siren over there, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and put up, but then also too, that they would help pay for the generator backup system potentially, or some power stuff. All that's been
There was talk of
discussed loosely, but I don't know where any of that's landed. What, we'd remove the one tower and it'd actually help out the fire department by getting the repeater up on the new tower and update some equipment too as part of the agreement.
they put the siren up there too then?
I think that the siren was not a desirable thing to put up there for coverage when it does its oscillation, but I might be mistaken on that. Again, Woody would be the.
I know the repeater was talked about. I'm not sure about the siren.
Do they ever talk about what that thing emits as far as like electromagnetic, whatever? Being here where all the residents are as compared to out there?
That's why we put it above the nursing home.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
No, I don't know any information on that.
People will ask about that. I mean, they ask about that and then they'll ask about what it will look like.
Yeah, that's a question for them. I mean, it's a big tower. You see these all the time. They're all over. Their current one is east of town, I believe, out by. Yeah, and then there's the other big one is at the sewer ponds. If anyone does it, it sits right above North Park there, or North Pines, not North Park.
And the plan was to have it similar to that. That's what they said.
What's that?
It would be similar to that, the height and the look and everything. The one that's by the sewer ponds.
Yeah, except maybe different construction. The one by the sewer pond, if I remember
Isn't it
right,
guide
is
wires?
is a larger tower. Does anybody know?
No, I don't.
look at my,
The one out at the sewer pond too, I don't know. It has to be at least as tall, isn't it?
Unsure.
But that's not in somebody's backyard either, so.
Right. Yeah, so that's been a big
That question-
consideration,
that
of the
question could come
council.
up.
Yeah, Gary, the council's directly talked about that, is it something that we want in downtown that tall? Or can we move it out by the, by the highway?
Seems like a better place would be out than the new property.
But I guess, without them being here and you guys hearing all that information, I guess it just doesn't work signal wise. I thought, wasn't
Right,
it
if,
Maggie, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of the roundabout
Yeah.
north maybe is what I remember. And then they could go north of town a little bit, but there's no property there. And then like over to the cemetery.
It didn't.
Right, they did
didn't
propose a
get as
couple.
Far to downtown, because that's the biggest issue with cell signal. Is downtown
Out
area,
here?
yes.
Yes, and the
Yeah.
propagation models that they were.
It used to be, this was years ago, I mean, 15, 20 years ago, when cell towers were beginning to show up all over the place. Their guide was to keep them like 26 miles apart on the average, so it's basically, you can see a tower on the horizon. If you can't see one, then the signals don't work either, so. Seems like we're only talking a mile here.
I understand.
I don't know what difference it would Shouldn't make that much difference.
I think when you get the overpopulation during our summer months is there's too much interference with everybody's cell phones, and so they needed a signal, like people that live on
Correct.
Church Street and Poplar and
If you've ever gone and it just pops off, or you call somebody and it doesn't go through, that's what's happening in the summer months. It's overcrowded, basically.
And Joe, just to reiterate on the generator, I know that that was part of the original agreement when it was gonna be over here by City Hall, but I don't know what the final decision has been now that it's.
Yeah, and I don't know either. I just know that it was talked about for sure.
Yeah,
It was talked about updating that generator system, you know, that would also supply the fire hall, which, you know, is kind of the command
Command.
area for the
Yep.
command center for the town. And that they would help fund that to get that upgraded. So, I mean, you know, they had thrown all that out if all that comes through or not, but those would all be benefits, I guess, for the city. But
Yeah,
I
it
don't
would.
know, that's more up to Tom and the negotiations on all that stuff. But the biggest thing, Gary, is the height, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that anyone's talked about what gets emitted off there, like living underneath power lines and stuff like that. I don't know that that's been brought up.
I don't think these things are anything like power lines, but.
Right,
you know,
yeah, but definitely
Hair
something,
doesn't stand up on your head under them, I know that. but-
right, definitely something to ask, you know.
Yeah.
The other location it was put there too, you know, right now, looked at with North Memorial and stuff. They will land their helicopter in the parking lot back here too. That is a LZ for medevac. So, I believe that they were fine with that. I don't know what else, excuse me, I don't know what else was talked about. But yeah, the initial thing was to move it out of town, but it doesn't sound like it's an option.
Well, they do have the capability of helping the city in its development of its needs down here too. You're talking about generators and everything else. So I mean, it's, there's dollars involved here too. So they're not doing this for free.
Yeah, I asked if they'd light it up for Thanksgiving and, you know, for the lighting, put a star up there or something on top for us.
Make a tree out of it.
Right, exactly.
If they designed it like a tree to begin with, all you'd have to do is
Right.
throw the switch.
and I do know when it was talked about the location over here by the pickle, they were gonna make it a tree. So I don't know if that is a final thing with
Oh.
this proposal, but they were going to do that.
I think that eases it a little bit for, especially like the nursing home, but then there's a development right there. I can't remember what his name was. He's from Pequot.
Poplar Place.
Yes, it's
Right.
right behind there, and they'd probably get the most view of it. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what are you, so we're doing the sketch plan review. What exactly do you need from us?
Just discussion for us to bring back to city council for their decision on it. In this case, we did a lot of review with like the propagation models. They had been in front of city council on the different heights and the propagation as a result for service. They did do area-wide analysis such as down at the new land, but again, that didn't quite benefit the need that is present down here.
But that wasn't one of Verizon's choice. They didn't want to be down there.
It's not their first choice, but again, I would defer to Woody and that team for their preferences. Another thing that would be kind of impactful there is we do require a minimum spacing of 1 mile. I'm not sure what the distance would be from tower to tower, but that is the limitation in our ordinance, is you can have no more than 2 towers within 1 mile of each other. Or no more than one.
So if City Hall gets moved over there eventually, I mean, that's one of the purposes for the land, wasn't it? That,
Yeah.
you know, that means fire department probably gets moved over there. Does that then have an effect either or with the repeater?
Not necessarily. You know, we have another repeater over on Molly Lake Road down over in Lake Edward. So the repeaters are spread throughout the county, you know, so it doesn't necessarily affect that one way or the other. That technology is always changing too. So by the time that happens, we might be in a whole nother radio system too at that time.
Yeah. I think this all comes down to individual preferences, you know, or our opinions. And I guess I would defer to the council. I suspect that they certainly have the prowess and the practicality and the wisdom to make a choice on this.
I think the number one issue from the council and from everybody in the community, right, is do we want a tower that big in there, you know, too? But then also too, just other people that I've talked to too, it's like, well, we have one that big already out at the sewer ponds and behind that whole development, and the response is kind of, oh, we do, you know, so I don't know if it's the sort of thing that when it first goes up, it will be noticed, but give it 5 years and you say, oh yeah, it's right by the tower and everything. What tower? You know, I don't know.
When people get used to anything.
Right.
You know.
Well, if you can
But-
make it a feature of the community too, I mean, Pequot did it with
The
the
water
water
tower,
tower, you know,
yeah.
if you can make it a feature, then
I think they can do some architecturally pleasing aesthetics with some towers these days, although at least, you know, if nothing else, just the right colors, you know, but I'm sure that they have manuals full of different designs, you know, 'cause I've seen lots of them, so.
I'm surprised though, that the city council wants her opinion on a tower, but they don't want her opinion on what goes on over at the property, over the commercial property.
Two different things, the commercial property, that process hasn't got that far yet, so that's like 20 steps down the road with that yet.
Well, I know, but I was at the last council meeting and it was you that said you want to keep it close to the, you know, you didn't want another committee, you wanted to stay on the council level because you wanted to move things through faster.
Yeah, and the next meeting coming up, actually, we will start to define that. You know, but before we get to what sort of buildings or anything gets in there, you know, there's 10 steps before that with the whole infrastructure to go over too. So really two different things, you know, this is more of a variance that comes through there. But on the land purchase, there'll be a lot of time and discussion for that will come through here. But ahead of time, I guess, yeah, the biggest thing is, you know, the council will lead that, you know?
Well, people that, I just want to ask the question, maybe I'm off topic, but will anybody that has anything to do with investments or anything like that, that may or may not be on the council, will they abstain from voting or having decisions made on that?
As far as like conflict of interest
Yep.
with council members? Yeah, I guess if there's a conflict of interest with a council member, that'd be something that would be brought up, you know, with Tom and our legal counsel on that.
Okay.
You know, just, you know, like anytime abstaining on any vote, you know, even here, you know, if there's some issue. But that's all directed by the legal part of the city.
Okay.
okay, so do we need a motion to?
No, simply the discussion and
Just discussion.
minutes that I'll forward
Okay.
and
Sounds
good
good.
in my staff report, so.
Okay. Moving on then. Old business, non-city planners report.
Thank you, Chairman. Did have an uptick here. We had 10 permits applied for and approved through June here. A couple more conditional use permits have been kind of trickling in. I have ongoing participation with some of the CUPs that we've issued this winter, and discussions around some of them, such as the Schaefer's Edition. So we're getting kind of that ready to go for their land use permit. And that's about what I have today.
Not breaking the door down for building permits or yet.
Yeah, yep. We are also had discussions with Chris Pence today about ordinance revisions of chapter 20 and potential others such as chapter 28 sewer or any of the other ones that he can assist with on guidance for language alterations or proposals. So I would keep an eye out for that on upcoming meetings as well.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? None? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.